So thank you to the LBB team for letting us join in this fantastic beach this year. And thank you to my own team in EACA and VoxComm. And thanks to REBORRN for supporting us in this endeavor today. So I have the huge privilege of not only running the EACA, which is the European Association of Communication Agencies, but I am also, for my sins, the current president of VoxComm. And VoxComm is the global voice for agencies. And we, before the panel discussion, which is the main event, and I know the only reason you came, not to hear me, but the main event is really coming on the back of a guidance paper that we released in March, which is a seminal paper for the industry called Redesigning the Agency Value Model. So before I tell you a little bit about the highlights of that paper, I just want to share with you a little bit about VoxComm, because it is gathering momentum. It was only set up in 2018, just before COVID, so it kind of didn't really do anything for a few years. And we are now made up of the biggest associations globally, including the 4As, which Justin leads, and he's on the board with me. And we have South Africa, we have Australia, we have America, we have Canada, we have Hong Kong, we have Malaysia, we have Chile, we have Morocco, we have Brazil. So there's lots of member organizations within VoxComm to help with the key issues that are facing the advertising industry today. We decided when we set up VoxComm that we would focus only on the biggest issues of the day and tackle one thing at a time. So last year we tackled, again, global pitching, and we launched with WFA the global pitching principles here in Cannes. This year we launched in March this guide, Redesigning the Agency Value Model, because there is absolutely no doubt this is the thing on everybody's minds if you're running an agency, if you're working with agencies, if you're coordinating with agencies. So, sorry, it is written by Brian Kesman in Lodestar Consulting. And if you don't take my word for it, you can see the amount of coverage that this topic is getting, some of which is around our seminal paper, I'm glad to say. But people are talking about the fact that agencies need to change their model everywhere. And Tim Williams is also a contributor to this paper, and he's an amazing consultant that we've worked with for some years now. And I love this. I don't know if you can read the gray on white here, but I love what he says here. It's the final nail on the coffin for the hourly rate, time and materials. But the optimistic version is also that it gives us this amazing opportunity to pivot and change, because it's the reason we absolutely need to change. Because the model has been broken for years now, because it rewards effort, not impact. And when you have a model that rewards effort, not impact, what happens is your revenue might increase with scale, but your margins go down. So it's an inevitability that this is becoming unsustainable and unscalable in this day and age, with AI making things quicker and quicker. And just to put things in perspective, again, apologies, because I'm not sure you can read the figures, but I did for comparison purposes, because it's so alike. I chose to use the full-time or revenue per full-time employee for Google, which actually now stands at 2.1 million per full-time employee. And for Apple, it's even more, at 3.2 million per full-time employee. For agencies, I don't know if you can read that, but for agencies, it's $150,000 per person. Our rates are only going down. They're only going in one way. So we have to do something. So AI has given us this opportunity to fix it. And that's why this paper has been written, and it's so important. But we can't start with pricing, because pricing is where the tension shows up, but not where the work begins. Quoting from Brian, our author. It helps you, the paper will help you redesign your agency model from the inside out. and really help you become the agency of the future. Because the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we selling time or are we solving important business problems? And I would hope you would all answer the latter, because that's what we do day in, day out. So brands and clients, some in the audience, I'm sure you'll agree, are not buying a list of capabilities and services. They're buying solutions to business problems. How often have we all, me included, in the agency world, put a list of all our wonderful capabilities and the services we offer without actually demonstrating the benefit of what they do for you, the client? So one of the things that I absolutely love about the paper that Brian has written is this agency model map, because also contained within the paper is a diagnostic link for you to assess where you are on this map. And you start with busy by design when you set up your agencies. You then scale with strain, says what it does on the tin, or does what it says on the tin. Then most agencies are at this stage in expertly undervalued. So we've got this fantastic talent in our industry. We've got amazing creatives who are winning awards as we speak. We've got incredible strategists who are behavioral scientists, who are psychologists. We have client services people that Salesforce and Google would give their eye teeth for. We have incredible talent and we have amazing leaders, but we're not putting a value on this talent. So most of us are expertly undervalued at this stage. Where we need to get to is distinctly scalable. And distinctly scalable means just that. You need to be distinctive from what you're offering, and you need to scale so that when your revenue grows, your margins don't. And what we've defined within the guide, or what Brian has defined, is how to get there. But it's not just all theory, because what the guide has is case studies from all over the world, from agencies, both independents and holding companies, that are somewhere on this journey. So don't worry, not all of them have got there. They're sharing really honest views of how they've started, where they are on the journey, and some are further ahead than others. But all of them have been incredibly honest and genuine, and we will be collecting more of those case studies. So the leadership question that's constantly being asked at the moment, and I love this, is if you were setting up your agency tomorrow and you had all the AI and automation tools that you have now, what would you do differently? You know, how would you make it work? How would you structure it? How would you value it? So, QR code for the guide. Please download it. Please take your, take the diagnostic study to see where you are, to see where you think your agency is, and let's keep talking about it, because this is the conversation of the day and is absolutely vital. So I am absolutely thrilled that Giorgos from REBORRN, our wonderful partner for this session, is going to be moderating a panel with Patricia, with Floriane, with Justin. He's going to introduce them properly for you, and I will hand over to him now.
Thank you. And let's give it up for Charley. Thank you, Charley.
There you go. My fan.
So that was a perfect setup. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving us this slice of your Cannes morning. A packed room is not granted, so thank you for that. As Charley said, I'm Giorgos Vareloglou. I'm managing partner at REBORRN. We are a marketing transformation consultancy, and we were proudly supported what basically Charley just presented to you guys. Today I get the easy job. I'm gonna ask the easy questions and get out of the way to make these legends that I'm going to introduce in a while shine. But before that, let me set this up with a very short reflection, because before that, in my previous life, I was running an agency as well. And this is not a new discussion at all. Discussing value-based pricing models for agencies is something that I remember myself discussing a decade ago almost. The reason that we discuss this today is AI, and that is, in my opinion, a good thing, because my personal view is that AI currently is changing the unit economics of how an agency is working in a profoundly positive ways, because it literally changes the question, the conversation from how long did this take to what judgment, what taste, who to decide, and is it worth making something at all. So my stance for the next 30 minutes that I will have with this beautiful crowd is simple. I'm extremely bullish on creativity, and I'm a bit bearish on the business model that we currently use to sell it. So Charlie's paper makes the business case, and our job here with the rest of the panel is to discuss and make it concrete with people actually living it. And I could not have asked for a better three. So I'm gonna ask ladies first. Flo Tripolino, give it up for her, CEO of WPP OpenX. Flo is building the future with some of the world's biggest brands, with the Coca-Cola company. You can take this seat. Thank you. And congratulations for yesterday's live.
Yes,
Gold
yes.
live, right? Patricia Corsi, Chief Growth Officer, Kimberly-Clark. Yeah, give it up for Patricia, please. Patricia is a rockstar CMO that I've been stalking for ages now online. And she's one of the sharpest and most fearless voices in our industry. Also, oh my God, how many awards yesterday? For KC?
Three.
Okay, great. And last but not least, Justin Thomas-Copeland, CEO of the 4As and fellow board member at VoxComm, right? Who has both the data and the conviction.
Conviction, love it.
And has spoken to half the industry, I think.
Love it.
I would like to start with the discussion with a bit more data. So I'm going to start from Justin. And am I allowed to say it because is it still embargoed? But we were discussing that wave 3 of your Forrester studies out fresh from the oven. So can you set us up with like what is real, what is hype?
Okay, I'll try. I'll do my best. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. And hey, everyone. And we're all hot and sweaty, so just embrace it and we can all relax. Right, so is it real? Is it hype? I'll give you some headlines. The team, Molly's over there, our president, has essentially been running a 3-year survey. So we've been doing a survey with Forrester to look at the application of AI within agencies. So 2024 was wave 1, 25, 26. It's embargoed until tomorrow. So I will deny that I said anything about what I'm about to say. But there are a couple of headline figures that I will give you because I think they're quite important. The first is really just a validation, right, of what I think we know, which is that currently 9 out of 10 agencies are using generative AI. So it's landed, right? I think we all know that, but it's just good to do the study to say that's a firm data point. The second thing is that as we were doing the wave last year, we were expecting to see like a plethora of sophisticated Gen AI, maybe agent case studies that would start to pop up this year. The reality is that by and large, everyone is really still anchored in productivity, right? And, you know, it's good in as much as there's a ubiquity around productivity being sort of a way in. The challenge is we're stuck there as agencies, right? I think part of that pressure is from clients because I gave a presentation a month ago and I said, I think there's an unhealthy assumption from some clients, which is it's going to be cheaper agencies. So like, just reduce your price. I've had so many agencies, I'm talking like 100 plus, who've said to me face to face, we've got our new budget and they've just taken off 15% off the top, right? No discussion, no understanding of whether that works for us. So we're still firmly stuck in productivity, right? We need to move out of productivity. Some of the case studies that we thought we would see would be like agent-based case studies. So build an agent of your client for new business. If you're doing pitches, put your strategy in the agent, get a response back. No one's really doing that. The figures for that are under 20%, right? So that's not really where a lot of the action is. And then the third area is around just the business model of AI, right? Which should concern every agency. You saw, you know, income or revenue per head, 150,000, 3 million at the platforms, right? There's a disparity that is absolutely, it's gross almost, right? At the moment,
But that was always true, right?
it was always true, but to that level. And also the revenue per head from an agency standpoint, 10 years ago was more over 200,000, if you would sort of generalize. So our numbers gone down, their numbers gone up. So that's a problem, right? That's a real problem. And the last thing I'll say is that 61% of agencies still view AI as a cost to do business, right? So they're not talking to their clients about their investment. They have no idea how much this is really going to cost. And when your revenue per person is going down, your margins are being squeezed, your business model is going to fail, right? Because you're just taking on board these costs and you're doing more of it. And that's a problem. Only 9% of agencies are monetizing or say they're monetizing AI investment at the moment. That's up from 6% last year, but it's like single digit. That's not sustainable, right? So there are a number of data points that we should embrace, but we absolutely need to sort of focus hard on. And I think part of that equation is talking to clients about the reality of where AI is and where it could be, and what is that journey that both agency and clients go on to get there. That is not happening. That is not happening. So those are a few data points on what's real and what's hype. Hopefully that's helpful.
I'm going to Flo now. Flo, we have the privilege of working together. So we were discussing the other day around end-to-end agentic workflows and the distance from reality. And I would say that right now, my lived experience is like, it's more like middle to middle, right? You still get briefs on emails, WhatsApps, and voice notes. So what is actually true today? What is possibly possible now that was not like 12 months ago, especially post-Anthropic?
Well, I think you're very right to call out the messiness because creativity and business, they don't happen in neat environment, right? They happen by an avalanche of WhatsApp in this voice note that is left behind 2 flights for going to Japan, in half an email. That's just the reality. And to help our team to navigate this very fragmented world, we need to give them access to all those bits and pieces of information, of intelligence at the right place and at the right moment. And it's, let's be honest, it's not happening at the present time. Creativity and intelligence, it's still run in parallel tracks. So creative briefs are coming with a lack of audience in mind. Commerce and media are coming after once the ideas are locked. And this gap between creativity on one side and intelligence on the other side, it has a huge cost, especially at the scale we're working with our global clients. So to solve this, what we need to do is to make intelligence available everywhere. And I'm not talking about more data because we have plenty of data. We have too much data sometimes. I'm talking about a better flow. And that's the good thing about agentic technology. It's that it can connect the dot. And that means that then the dynamic is changing because this messy voice note that we are talking about, well, it's then part of a process. It's not lost anymore.
So workflow automation is what is now possible. That was
yes,
not like a year
exactly.
ago. Okay.
Exactly. And that means that in this case, intelligence is not this thing that you go find, that the teams are spending time and money to go find. It's something that shows up where the work is happening. And that completely changed the dynamic because it means that intelligence is not coming after the decisions are made. Intelligence then shapes the decisions from the start. So it means that as soon as the brief is open, the teams, they have the right signals in front of them. It means that the measurements are not coming just at the end, it comes at the beginning. It means that you build creativity with audience and platform in mind. And that means that the next piece of work is making the next piece of work smarter.
Smarter and better. Patricia, so thanks again for being here with us, being like for 48 hours in Ghana. From the client's chair, what's your honest reaction to all this? I enjoyed even our first call that we got to meet and discuss the agency value model, and we almost rerun a panel during the call. So I'd love a bit of that.
It was really fun. And we got some previews from Justin, which were, I've said, yeah, this is my crew. First of all, interesting. LBB and friends, thank you so much. This is such a great venue, much better than before. Well done, top scores. Really great, fantastic, thank you. But I was looking at my, this photo memory. And 4 years ago, I was sitting at the LBB beach with Kristen Cavallo and some other colleagues to talk about the relationship between clients and agencies. And why this is relevant? Because the state that we are today has some root issues. And if we don't solve what is the problem, the root issue, we are just going to work on symptoms. So I think there is this need for really transparent conversations. I think, to the point that you were discussing, sometimes it doesn't help, that some things that get into the media are the worst parts of the industry. And I make a big plea to,
Can you give an
especially,
example?
there are some publications that put the pineapple of the week, the worst advertising of the week. Celebrate the best. Don't throw down, because whatever is in there, a client has approved. When someone in my team said, oh, this was the agency doesn't have the power to put something on air, whatever is the medium by itself, right? So there are more, the culprits are a big number, right? And then the agencies will say, well, the clients are not brave enough, etc. So I think there is a mismatch. And I think this is also caused by, when I was a young marketeer in the 90s, we didn't had a lot of things to think about. You had to understand your consumer, you had to understand your customers, and media was very simple. In Brazil, where I started my career, you had TV. If you are not in TV, you're nothing. You had outdoor for the, summery places. We have a big coast. Radio, at that point, there were some good things, and God permit, print and cinema. But it was that simple. I look at the marketeers today, they're overwhelmed trying to understand all the different audiences, all the different formats, all the different medias. And I think the communication industry has a communication problem. So you were talking about people expecting saving. I'm sorry, I say this with a lot of love in my heart. At the beginning, the way AI was sold to us in top to tops is this automatically will bring you a saving. You know what a CEO understands, what a CFO understands on that? Exactly what Justin said. Your next budget, 15% less. So we are angry with the agencies. The agencies are angry with us, but there is no way out.
It's like digging our own grave, right?
Yes. And then we
Shooting
need to do
ourselves.
better work. We need to reach more people. And the efficiencies, we know efficiencies, there is a point where, better than zero is still zero. Effectiveness for me is the thing that, again, I urge the people that really know how to do this is not my craft. Your communication people, do better on communicating your staff, right? On creativity. I love you all to the moon. You have something that is very special, a craft that I could never have, and I really value that. But the way you communicate to the CEOs, the CFOs, is not helping us, especially on the AI front, because it's coming as a saving.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Didn't expect anything less from this panel. So,
He said, don't be too agreeable. I
let's
said,
not,
okay,
yeah,
I will
told
do my
everyone,
best.
Let's do another flop panel, a vanilla one. So Justin, you told me on the phone yesterday that you spoke with 100 agency CEOs and owners in the past 7 months.
Yeah,
First of all, wow.
Yeah, I've gone around the US and sat down with owners and founders, yeah.
So let's get into the core tension. How does this half of the industry rethinks value right now?
Well, I think Patricia raises a very good point. I think that the way that we started as an industry, agency side, talking about the technology was too much around the efficiencies and the operational benefits in savings, right? And I think that agency owners have seen that. In my experience of talking to so many, they have seen that. But I think that was predicated by the pressure they were already under, right? They were already under pressure. and it was almost like a life guard swimming by, and you hold on and you say, you know what, I can ride that wave. So a lot of them did it instinctively. They weren't thinking about the business model. They were thinking about a new conversation, and they thought that that would give them a little bit of a runway to then talk more value. The problem is they've stuck there, and we're all stuck there. It's all about the efficiency. It's all about the pricing and the spend going down. So the new value is about re-articulating exactly how AI will be leveraged to drive business outcomes and build brands and build business. And that's where I'm starting to see agencies now look at agentic technology, agents, build products, do things differently. One of the things that comes with that, if you're going to do that I've seen, you've got to reinvent as an agency how you work, which is quite scary. Your workflows have to be different. So I'll give you an example. There's an agency that I met, 200 people in the Midwest, independent, fantastic, creative, but full service. They have built an agent. It's an agent of the client's core segments. And what it does is it is used by the client team and the agency team. And they put into that strategies, they put into that ideas, conceptual ideas, they put into that their media investment curves. And the agent tells them, as the audience, as the segment, that won't hit, that I will like, that I won't, you won't reach me there. Like, it's just a really practical, solid application. But in order to do that, they built the model. They had to change how they work as a team. It's a complete rewrite of how the agency works, right? And so if they're going to be able to restate their value, they also have to be brave enough to re-look at how they work. And all of the things that they've done legacy-wise, many of them won't remain. Because it's quicker, it's more collaborative, and it's much more focused on the outcome, building the brand, building business, which we shouldn't be shy of as agencies. So it's a very deep shift. It's more than the product. It's more than building an agent. There's headlines, again, we maybe do have a communication problem. There's a lot of, we'll build an agent, or an agency has got these agents, but that's a use case where they're really just redefining how they go to market. And they're redefining how they work with the client, and they're rebuilding a brain of intelligence that the agency and the client is sharing. That's the whole reframe. That's beyond workflow, right? But you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be brave to do that. That's an example of how you reframe the value.
Flo, I'm gonna go a bit deeper.
Yeah,
for something
sure, I'm
that's
sure you will.
Yeah, because many agency leaders are thinking about this. There's a new line in the invoice, which is the tokens. And the headline here is like cheap tokens, expensive thinking. Like if you see the market in the past couple of years, we radically reduced the cost of token, but it almost tripled, especially in the past 6 months, the cost of intelligence. And I would like your point of view. How do you guys treat this at WPP? Is it something that you pass to the client? Is it part of the work? How do you, and there's a lot of uncertainty because you don't know how this is going to be like a year from now, right?
Wow, super easy question, and I'm melting. Okay, so yeah, well, there is a paradox in our industry at the present time that we need to recognize. So tokens are getting cheaper and cheaper, and the thinking is probably more valuable than ever, right? And if an agency answer is just to add one additional line on the invoice, which is token costs, well, in this case, we're probably getting it wrong, because what we do is that, to your point, Justin, we just pass on the cost of inefficiency to the client. So we try not to do that. So at WPP, we don't price on how many tokens it takes to get to something. We price on what we deliver, so the output, and to your point, more and more the impact of the output, that is to say, the outcome. And that means that when the price of tokens are moving up, or if a new model is just changing its business model overnight, like it happens, we don't pass this risk on to the client. Now, the only way, and you're right, Justin, the only way you can make that promise at that scale, because our global clients, if I think about Coca-Cola, it's like 180 markets where they're present. We can only do that if we fundamentally change the way we work. And that means that the industry needs to take that new reality into consideration. And at the present time, frankly, a majority of the agencies, they just don't take that into consideration. They treat AI as a very powerful resource, which it is, but plugging it into the old way of working, right? The same brief, the same process, the same hands-off. And when you pour a token into a model that is still traditional, when you don't get efficiencies, productivities, you get just costs. Yeah. So you were saying, Justine, that the real shift is not just technology, it's very much the way we work. We need to redesign the way we put work in the flow. And that's what we've been trying to do at WPP. So in WPP Open, we have what we call the super agent. So think about them as expert in workflow design, so they know exactly when to use fast and an efficient model, when to go deeper in terms of thinking, but also when to skip steps because they simply don't add value. And that's optimizing how much thinking we actually need to get to a brilliant idea. Now, that's changing completely what we sell. Because in the traditional model, we were selling time. You're right, it was super simple. It was how many hours do we need to get to something, right? To a deck, to a film, to a banner. Well, it's a bit different now. So I would say that what we are selling is something a bit different. I'm thinking about it as a finite amount of thinking that the brand has to solve a problem. So how much effort, attention, depth you need to solve a problem. Think about it as almost as a brand cognition budget. Well, our job is to direct that. Our agency job is to understand how much thinking we need to put in the work so that it gets to great idea, that gets to great outcome without the costs spiraling out of control.
I know we have to go because I saw the sign of. I just want to. Oh, so I wanted to make a comment on that because enough, and I know it's easier said than done, and I don't like to say I sit on the other side because I believe that we sit on the same side if we are one team. But one of the things that has the most value is the creativity. And for whatever is the reason, brand guilty, agency guilty, this is the thing that normally it's coming with a lot of discount. It's very, very difficult to put a price on creativity, either because of the long-lasting effect on brand or the immediate effect, right? So if you look at the best creativities in the world, these are, I can guarantee to you, these are the best performing brands. And if you don't want to trust me, don't trust me. I'm like Justin, I like data. So McKinsey had done a study on that. The FIs had done a study on that. So there is a lot of, Kantar has done a study on that. I look a lot on that because I love creativity because it drives value and growth for the business, right? And for whatever is the reason, at a certain point, procurement was taking the lead, creativity is low value. So I think there is an opportunity now because I see this with, I'm going to say, optimistic eyes, because we never had so much data to use that to be the catalyst for a transformation of this industry. And keep talking about the old model feels old itself, older than me talking about me doing marketing on the 90s. Something that it feels, honestly, if you deliver a great work, talk to 100 chief growth officer, chief brand officer, chief marketing officer. I don't think they will care if you charge by hour, if you charge by output. I think these conversations need to happen. And take the bravest people and ask them, can we do a test? What are the short-term metrics? What are the long-term metrics, right? So I think this conversation needs to happen. And brand, especially in AI, I have the privilege to have a guy like Luis Sanchez on my team who is a mastermind creatively. And he's right when he says that with AI, the brands and LLMs and people, agentic commerce, people searching for things on on AI, brands can become very obsolete if you don't continue to do the brand building job. Because it's easier for people to, if you know, for the algorithm, if you don't have the content, if you don't have the branding built there, if you ask for Kleenex, they say, okay, nose tissue. Right? So you have, and by the way, Kleenex is one of the fastest growing brands ever. I don't know if these people are crying more, people are sweating more. I don't know what it is, but it's growing like mad. But it's great foundations. And I think this is the thing that I would say is important for all of us commercially. Go back, look at your foundation things. If your foundations are not good, everything else that, you know, like the mirror ball there, it's diversion. It's not interesting. Foundation's good, then everything else plugs on top of that. Then you build value on top of that. And get the first courageous clients first and test, and then communicate the heck out of it. Because there is a FOMO with people in commercial areas. Nobody wants to be the one that is left behind, the traditional, the dinosaur, and all of this. If everyone is doing something that really delivers results, nobody wants to be on the boat of people not delivering results. I think this is quite obvious. So I think there is something that can be done in this area.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Flo, just continuing on this and the importance of creativity. You're leading OpenX, which is a bespoke agency for Coke that is built for the speed and the scale of Coke. The fear, like the vibe that I'm personally getting in Cannes, being here for like 24 hours, is like in a few years' time, we're gonna end up with a flood of average, soulless content and like a sea of sameness in terms of ideas and creativity. Yeah. How do you manage that? Like, how do you manage the speed to make sure that human creativity and taste that Patricia is talking about don't get crushed by the machine's efficiency?
Yeah, well, Patricia is right when she's talking about creativity, right? At the end of the day, that's why we're here, and creativity necessitates human judgment. Now, it's true that there is a fear at the present time, which is very much the speed. And it has to do with the fact that culture moves super fast, and brands more and more are requested to react super quickly to that, right? And that gap is basically disappearing these days. So the risk with that kind of speed, when we know that AI is able to produce at the scale it's able to produce, that is to say, filling any kind of format in the span of seconds, is that, yes, we're then flooded by average. That then means that brands are not ever seen anymore. So, and I'm gonna say a word that usually tune out a full room of creative mind. I'm gonna talk about governance. I think this is where we need to be careful with human judgment. If we don't have the right governance in place, human judgment doesn't have a seat at the table. Then that means that the decisions, they are just taken by the algorithm that is optimizing for speed and volume, just by whoever is available in a room or by the deadlines, but you don't have the right human judgment that can decide for the right things to produce. And that's very important, because at the end of the day, human judgment is the filter. It's the taste. This is what brings the soul to the work.
Thank you, Flo. Justin, I want to believe you are a voice of optimism in the industry.
Be a believer. It feels great.
And you've said that the industry is taking a different shape, not a decline. So what gives you hope right now?
A number of things give me hope. The first is that I think as long as we need brands and businesses in the world, I think there's a place for agencies, right? I think if you want to unlock growth, and I think the agenda clearly is for growth, then you need breakthrough ideas to do that. And I think that's where agencies add value. We've just lost our way in communicating it and being focused on how we articulate that. I think it's not hope. I think it's undeniable. We heard some of the research, 11 times effectiveness of awarded creativity, right? Because it has breakthrough. It's good for business. It drives categories, it grows market share. So I think it's more than hope. I think we've just got to organize and almost go back to the future and organize around it. The other thing I think that gives me hope is talent, right? I think there's great talent out there. Now, that's going to be a different shape. We know that in agencies. We know there's a slowdown in entry level, but agencies still need human ingenuity and human creativity. So there's still going to be a need for talent to be at the table to drive those ideas. Again, that's not hope. I don't know that of any LLM to date that's given any breakthrough idea, right? And I don't see that happening anytime soon. And even if there were ideas, you need taste to curate that. So I think there's an imperative that there is, humanity and creativity to drive business and drive growth. We've just got to organize around that. We've got to have different conversations around that. We've got to break down how we work as agencies and be brave enough to have new ways of working. And we've also got to be braver with clients. Agencies love to be loved, but I think this is an era where you've got to have business conversations. I asked a simple question when I went around the US to all the agency CEOs and founders. I said, how many of your clients have just called you and said, how's business? Like, are you making money? Are you healthy? How many have just asked this, just a normal question, how's business? No one had been asked that question. And they're working with like tier 1 brands. No one's asked the question. I said, well, how is business?
True.
And in most of the agencies, they're like, it's tough. We're under pressure. So then the next question is, well, have you brought that to your client to have that conversation? And the response wasn't much better, right? There needs to be bravery. We need to have these conversations. I think that's the one thing that's got to be a shift on both sides. It's now the time to have the conversation.
Thank you, Justin. And contrary to every other panel in Cannes, I'm going to close not with optimism, but so just drop it out for a second. I have a game for you. I'm going to say a sentence, and then you're going to have like 30 seconds to fill the sentence. So the agencies that won't survive this will be the ones that
won't survive this, right? Won't. Okay. So thank you for starting with me. They will be the one who are investing more behind machine, meaning optimizing for speed and volume, but will forget to invest behind inspiration. So what makes us valuable as humans? So making sure that people can still understand what empathy is, emotions, frailties even, because that's what gives soul to the work.
Thank you. Patricia.
What is English is my third language, so help me out on this. This is not, what is the contrary of courageous? Coward?
Yeah, coward.
I think the ones that are not going to survive are the coward ones, because you need courage to reinvent yourself. And I think this is what is needed. It needed reinvention. So if you're not in the game of being reinvented, you're on the game of saying, let's do our best to go back to what it was before, I think they're not going to survive.
Justin?
I think it's the agencies that who won't get comfortable leading clients. So the ones who won't make it are those who won't just jump into leading clients, not trying to please clients, not trying to service clients, but the ones that are leading clients. Those are the ones that are going to be successful. The ones who won't make it will not do that. They'll just continue to want validation. They'll continue to want to please. They'll continue to want to just be in the direction where the clients go in and not where the market's going.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Flo. And thanks, everyone, for an amazing panel.